Hi, folks. Today I'm very happy to have with us a longtime friend and collaborator and colleague. We have done a few things together. She was the editor for years ago. I was developing continuing ed workshops for ACE and NASM trainers, and she was kind enough to lend her expertise to provide technical editing for one that touched on trainer parameters for giving nutritional guidance to their clients. And then Ann and I collaborated on the earlier version of what has now become 50 plus hybrid athlete. And folks, Anne Moselle, MSRD, and all around great person, and I'm going to ask her some questions that I think that you might like the answers to. So, Anne, could you please tell us a little bit about your background and what drew you to nutrition as a career?
Yeah, I thought about that when you sent it to me, and I actually started out in college studying animal science
Oh,
with the hopes of being a veterinarian.
oh,
I had wanted to
interesting.
be a veterinarian since I was like in eighth grade. Um, and I went to Cornell, so it was one of the best vet schools in the in the country. They also had a really good nutrition program,
Oh, okay.
and and I played softball in college,
Okay.
so I was always interested personally in how I could improve my skill set, my endurance, everything related to my performance, including nutrition. So I decided to take a class in nutrition, more just because I was interested personally. This is kind of a selfish reason, but it also
Sure.
checked the box in one of my electives. And I just fell in love with it and quickly knew that that's where my career needed to turn. So luckily, a lot of my, classes, the science classes all transferred over. So I didn't have a lot of extra. I think I was a sophomore when that happened. So yeah. And from there, I don't know how much of my detail do you want, but I've been doing a lot of different things over the years. I've been a dietitian for more than 3 decades now. Um, I've done everything from clinical work in the hospital, ICU, critical care, nutrition, to running a fitness center, a nutrition program, developing weight loss programs, both pediatrics and adults, cancer survivorship program, cardiac rehab, nutrition classes, done a little bit of sales here and there. And most recently now I kind of have two different avenues. I do clinical work with dialysis patients part-time, and then I also I'm working for Nourish, and I'm doing telehealth nutrition counseling for people. That's more of the health and wellness, probably more what your group is interested in.
Well, I'm dazzled by, I mean, I had a pretty good idea, but I'm dazzled by the specificity of the variety of experiences that you've had. And I'm guessing that
Yeah,
not only is the technical practice fairly different, even though there might be a basic framework that's the same,
yeah, yeah,
um, that that working with patients and clients of a different mindset or with different objectives can be a completely different experience than guiding folks who are at maybe a critical point of intervention for a medical reason.
yeah. It is. It's really interesting, and because I'm wearing two hats right now, and I do have to shift my mindset. My dialysis patients are there because they're on dialysis. They don't want to be there,
Right.
but they also know that the way they eat is going to influence how they feel, the quality of life in
Right.
particular. And if they're on the transplant list, of course, it's going to affect the ability to get a transplant. With my health and wellness clients, it's completely different. They are coming to me. Um, I'm not meeting them at chairside, and they have specific goals. Whether it's they just had a doctor's appointment and their lipid levels were high, or they want to lose weight, they're thinking about starting a GLP-1. I deal a lot with women's health, so women that are going through perimenopause and menopause, and just the challenges. And I think because I've gone through that, I'm very relatable. I can understand what's happening.
Sure.
and can provide some good guidance accordingly.
Right. That makes perfect sense. And it's um it's incredible how popular a practice becomes, and then the just in general population, or in even in the athletic community, and then you really become really more of an ambassador of critical thinking and context specific application,
Right.
while also considering the personality, the dignity, the pluses and the minuses, for all that. So
Yep.
we're going to need to do a part two, maybe just you and me over coffee, because I do have some questions of you about the GLP-1. I have a couple of clients right now,
Yeah.
one who well, let's just say they're taking different approaches
Yeah.
to their their treatment program, and I am having to handle it differently because I have appropriate boundaries that in your role you would have potentially much more um, justifiable reach and influence on their decisions. So I really
Yeah.
want to get your input on that. So you mentioned that you were an athlete. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how it affects your views on nutrition and your personal approach to eating separate from your practice, which of course is
Yeah.
multifold. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, I played three sports in high school and then narrowed it down to just one in college and have always been very athletic. It's always been really important to me. I think mostly because I realized early on that moving my body was the best way for me to keep myself grounded.
Oh,
So as I moved across the country several times. I've lived in various cities, and with that becomes challenging, meeting new people and all of that. But as long as I still had my exercise, that really helped me. So I kind of, as I look back on my athletic career, that's one thing that during that moment I didn't really pick up on that. But now looking back, I'm like, that really was important. Now I'm an older woman and I know the importance of exercise for longevity. My exercise approach has changed dramatically. I'm still a cardio junkie at heart, but I know that that's not what my body needs at this time of my life. And in terms of nutrition, um, and I use myself as a guinea pig. I think we all kind of do, right? Um, and I try different things. I've tried doing a low carb diet and seeing how my body responds and just fiddling around with it. And I know what works best for me.
sure.
Um, in terms of my philosophy, and I use this personally, but also with many of my clients, is the 80-20 rule, that as long as 80% of the time you're really focusing on eating the right whole foods, getting all the nutrients your body needs, you still have 20% where you can, enjoy, because food is enjoyable. And
There is.
a lot of cultures, it's all about the food. I have a client right now. She's very Italian. Parents came off the boat, and she goes to her grandparents' house, and it's all about the Italian food. It's very different than what we're used to.
Sure.
Um, and so I really try to help the client understand, and myself, I mean, understand 80% of the time, let's stay on track, but 20% of the time, so that way you're not beating yourself up
Right.
if you go off the deep end one night.
Yeah, I really love that because it simultaneously provides a permission structure to
Yeah.
veer off from um, a plan that might otherwise be overly rigid or strident.
Yes.
And it also provides a softer, more encouraging support mechanism to continually return back to those principles,
Yes.
right? And become more
Yeah, because
identified with them as a practice.
so many people, they start their weight loss journey or their health journey and they think it has to be 100%. And then they hit a bump in the road, whether it's a party they didn't know about or whatever the case may be, and they go off their plan and they think it's all or nothing. And so they get the feeling, okay, I'm a failure.
Right.
I can't do this. and they just give up. And so I really try to encourage them that there's always going to be those bumps in the road. And we have to figure out how we're going to navigate through those
Right.
and still come out and stay on track.
Right. Now, that's great. I'd like to kind of juxtapose to the other end of that. So, a lot of athletes, especially high performance athletes, not just in terms of their intensity, their frequency, and their duration of their training, but also how they think of themselves in terms of accomplishments for their particular sport or sports. Um, and as we get older, of course, we've talked about this before, age-related reduced protein absorption sensitivity, plus the tendency, I think culturally, lifestyle, we tend to, um, there's a trend toward, let's say, I wouldn't say it's a blanket thing, but we tend to, as we get older, eat more socially, eat
Yeah,
maybe later in the evening, maybe combine it with alcohol, maybe have that last meal of the day be the sort of the feast celebration type thing.
right.
It takes on a different role than nourishment or even just um, acute event enjoyment. It's this whole
Yeah,
thing, right?
right.
So I know that there are a lot of for the older athlete community that I'm really trying to focus on serving, that they can easily be too rigid, not necessarily with uh, a judgment, punishment, reward sort of structure, but just because this leads to this, there's a sort of concrete association. And because of the media and all these, even the Facebook groups, people are, in the top, well, in the genetic pool percentage where you can walk around, where a guy can walk around at 10 or 12% body fat, or a woman could walk around at
Yeah,
15 to 16% body fat. And then they take, they lean down for a contest or for an event and take a picture where that's the most flattering. And then, everybody judges themselves by all that it's just rampant. This be a super performer, every decade of your life and be able to walk
yeah,
around at, low um, uh, two-digit or even single-digit body fat percentage. That's just it's not realistic, and the pursuit of it often is much more damaging than supportive
right.
of health and performance goals. What would you say, given all that and whatever insights you have related to that, what would you say are the biggest weak spots that you tend to see in the older athlete community, nutritionally?
Well, I mean, you brought up a lot of good points. I think the socialization is a big thing. I also think the appearance, the comparisons we often do with social media, the social media influencers that are out there that don't have any clinical expertise that are spreading misleading information. And that's where I spend a lot of time when I'm with my clients is kind of getting through some of those myths, shall we say.
Sure.
But I also see, especially, I mean, since my group tends to be more the older women, um, some men, but more women. They want to keep their appearance, and the only way they know to do that is to cut their calories.
Right.
So, despite what their body needs, they think the only way is to eat less and less. And we both know that that is not going to serve them, especially on the performance side at all.
Yeah.
And when they do that, typically they're cutting down on their protein.
Right.
I mean, cutting down on everything, but the protein in particular. And, in light of the fact that we all need more protein, I mean, you touched on this a little while ago, but the anabolic resistance that goes on as we get older, we need more protein. And so how do we do that? And so it takes a lot of education and holding hands, I guess,
Yeah.
really helping people because yeah, social media is probably one of our biggest challenges as clinicians.
Yeah. I completely
I don't know if
agree.
I answered your question per
You
se,
did.
but
You answered it beautifully because you're talking about not just the basic principles, but the interaction of all those influences. And it's so
yeah,
important to articulate how there's an interdependence between those different elements. And I smiled when
right.
you mentioned um, dismantling some of the garbage that's out there. And I would say, so
Hmm.
I post to the private Facebook group for this program. I post daily
Right.
to it, and I have to tell you that about a third of what I post is something in that vein. A researcher
Yeah.
or a clinician whose main goal in terms of social media is to get out there and challenge those, provide a contrast in terms of reliable information. I posted
Yes.
recently about what evidence-based really was. Alan Aragon, who's part of the International Society of Sports Nutrition, he laid it down. He's really good at articulating in very clear layman's terms what's the difference between, okay, somebody's citing some obscure part of some study versus what's the weight of the collective um, academic understanding of the situation, how applicable is it to your profile? Do
Right.
if you are um, a trainer, a dietitian, somebody who has some expertise in both areas, uh, what what's your awareness of field experience and your own particular field experience, and then how much effort and thought are you putting into the very specific contextual application for this one particular person at this one point in time, given their particular group. And it's just, it's not a soundbite. It's not an inflammatory statement that
Exactly.
everybody thinks they need to get on
And
board for
that's
the
the thing.
same
It's not
wave.
the instant reward. Like if I do this, it's not that eye-catching
Right.
pop of a post. And that is challenging because that's what people are looking for. They're
Yeah.
looking for the magic pill or the
Yeah.
magic shot. I talk to a lot
Yeah.
of people about their magic shot,
Yeah.
and it's a tool, right? If someone's trying to lose weight, the GLP-1 is a tool, but it's not the end all be all. And there's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. So, yeah, it's challenging. It's a lot different now than when I started my career as a dietitian. That's for sure.
As we're talking, I'm thinking about all the conversations we've had before this, and there's
Hmm.
a common thread with our conversations about these topics, and that's you and I do a lot of nodding and smiling in response to what the other.
It's
So,
true.
but
It's
I think
true.
that's an important point because the the ideas that help light a useful, grounded in science pathway
Yeah.
need to be continually illuminated.
Hmm.
And those who do that are obligated to keep their own pathways lit appropriately too. So I'm fine
Exactly.
with the repetition. I'm fine with us both saying, yeah, it's
Yeah.
here's 85% of the problem. And and I really appreciate that I have you as a resource to kind of because we can slip into biases and I can get tunnel vision like
Oh,
any guide in this particular area. And in nutrition, I think to a lesser extent, except when you get into very specific so subcategories of that, but certainly fitness it's the case. These are two relatively young areas of science and
agree.
rapidly evolving and highly intertwined. And then this whole over 50 athlete profile that is really growing by leaps and bounds. The
Hmm.
research is slowly trying to catch up, and
Yes.
there's so much for all of us to learn. And I've always appreciated and enjoyed learning by eavesdropping on conversations by between two well-intentioned and well-informed, or more, even a
Yeah.
panel of three or four. So I really appreciate that. So, but I want to be respectful of your time, but I do want to ask you one more thing, kind of keep it open field,
Yeah.
knowing kind of how I try to approach this topic for my group and knowing what you do about over 50 athletes. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with our folks on the way out of our interview here?
Um, well, I mean, one thing I tell a lot of my clients is, if they hear something and they bring it to me, I always say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
That is great.
Right?
Yeah,
There is no magic diet
right.
or, and a lot of people look at the results one person or two people have and they think, well, but they're showing you what they want to show you. They're not showing
Exactly.
you everything. And so really do your due diligence in trying to understand the truth.
Good.
And then find clinicians when you need to, if you are stuck, um, whether it's on the training side or on the nutrition side
Yeah.
or a combination. I think a lot of people, they don't know what to do. And so getting some guidance from an expert can definitely help.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. I am going to put, folks, I'm going to put Anne's contact through Nourish, right? Not Nourish, like just
Yep.
Nourish, right? In
Nourish.
the description for this video. And please feel free to reach out directly to her, or if you'd like me to ask her a question, I will. I'll bend her ear and we'll include that in the Facebook group or in the one of the blogs or the newsletter, or maybe we'll do a follow-up to
Yeah.
this sometime.
I'd
So
love to. I'd love to get together again soon. I appreciate this. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll hopefully catch up soon again.
that sounds great. Thanks again, Anne. I really appreciate
All
it.
right.
All right.
All right.